Hey friends out there in YouTube land, Robert Hamm here with Robert Hamm Photography, and today we're going to be talking about reading light, and that's something that is tough for a lot of us to do. We have to learn how to do it, so I'm going to share some tips with you and share also some thoughts from another viewer that wrote me this email a couple weeks ago. So if you're ready, let's get started. Now guys, you know I've been looking at and using the TL70 for the past week now, about 10 days on, and I'm having a blast. So if you thought I forgot about wedding photography and landscape photography, I didn't. I'm just really excited about this camera, which is why it's here. I think you should enjoy looking at it while we talk about these things. But also for the fact that the TL70 really makes you think about light and read light very carefully. In order to get the best out of it, you have to be very acutely aware of the settings of the camera as well as the setting which you are within. So here's how the story went down. There's a viewer out there, Rob. Rob, this is a continuation of our conversation we've been having through email. And Rob was talking about photographing in black and white down in Amsterdam. Now Rob is very lucky, or not lucky, fortunate to have an X100F. What an amazing camera to have. And of course the X100F comes with the new Acros black and white simulation, and Fujifilm has over 85 years of making film, so what a great way to put a beautiful simulation like Acros into the X100F and their top-of-the-line cameras so that we can have access to those film styles. Now, if you would like to shoot Acros, you're more than welcome to. Fujifilm still makes the film, but it's nice to also have that in JPEG format. Now, Rob shoots JPEG and RAW, but the idea was this, simply that when he was down there, he wanted the Acros film simulation, and he was recognizing that in order to photograph with the JPEG, of course he shoots fine plus RAW, that you have to make some kind of compromises. You have to be aware of your settings. You have to be aware of what you're doing. And so he entered a discussion about that. You know, how do you wish to process the image? What will you use it for? What is the purpose? And what is your workflow like? Because obviously you can go into Lightroom with a RAW file and do pretty much whatever you would like to it and really regain 5-6 stops of exposure depending on where you are. You can even turn around and fix noise. You can fix all kinds of things. So digital photography is more of like digital artwork with photographic manipulation. The other thing that he wanted to talk about, and his main point here was, there is something to be said about getting it right in camera. And you know what, Rob? I totally agree. You know, when I started shooting weddings and photographing weddings, you know, there was a learning curve for me. I had a difficult time, just like anybody would, no matter how much experience you have. And I didn't work with any of the wedding photographers around here, mainly because I didn't have any that I respected well enough to work with. And there's a story about that on some of my trolling videos and an example of bullying in the photography world. I mean, people around Virginia Beach were very staunch and standoffish when it comes to a new photographer. And that's a shame, because it shouldn't be that way. However, the point that I made is, I pioneered through myself. I recognized I was good enough to do good work, and I realized that there were some cheats that I would have to do in order to help produce good work. So my first year, going on almost 8 years ago now, 7 years ago, my first year, I was a machine gun photographer because I didn't know if I would be able to get everything right. I shot raw, and I'd spend lots of time going through my images to find the perfect set of images to curate and present. And so that's the difference. That's the difference that we're talking about. One is getting it right in the camera, and the other one is getting it right in Lightroom. You see, and what I found out was, getting it right in Lightroom takes a long time, my friends. It's a long time. So if you're able to shoot and get it right in camera, and then apply an aesthetic effect that you prefer in Lightroom, that's a great workflow. In fact, that's the workflow that I use now. I shoot maybe 800 images on a full day wedding. It's because I'm shooting in RAW plus JPEG, right? Then 9 times out of 10, I will use my JPEGs, but I will have my RAWs as backups for a shot that I blew. And getting it right in JPEG means I'm already I'm using the controls in order to make sure I've got a good enough image that has a nice profile so that I can finish the image in post-production. So I curate all of my images. And this is especially important with post-production. And it's especially important when people begin paying you for work. Now, I do have some differentiations. I've talked about my business model with you guys in the past, so you recognize that a more value-priced wedding has a different workflow than a boutique wedding, and that's okay. People recognize that, and I talk about that with my clients. But no matter what, getting it right in camera is very, very important. Another thing is, well, let's take the conversation a little bit further. Getting it right in camera, if you can do it on instant film, you can probably do it anywhere. Mainly because instant film is going to perform much more like real film because it's real film, right? Your digital sensor is going to give you so much lateral manipulation in Lightroom if you're shooting RAW that you can almost completely blow a shot 5 stops and still recover quite a bit and have something. So the other thing that we're talking about here is, why is Rob's poignant point about getting it right in camera and understanding the JPEG and getting it right, why is that so important? It's important because you don't get an opportunity to fix anything when this print pops out. That's it. Game's over. So it's either right or wrong. You can't fix this. Even with film, you can fix. You can scan film into a digital process and then post-produce it. But with something like the TL70, I can get shots on the Mint camera that require a kind of knowledge that digital shooting does not help you learn directly. If you're not reading light and understanding the exposure values, like how bright the sky is in contrast to how dark the ground is, if you're not looking and considering the shadows, then FUJIFILM Instax Film, which has an exposure range of about 10 EV values, or exposure values, which is not dynamic range, then you're going to blow it all out. Because most scenes that you're going to see when you're outdoors are going to be up to 17 EV worth of light, from the brightest brights to the darkest darks. Now, that's more important because that knowledge gives you the ability to create on any medium. And I think that's what Rob is trying to talk about. The minute that you begin looking at your image and understanding your digital image, that there are actually lights and darks and that histogram has some meaning, then you can begin applying what kind of taste you want to the image as an input. And that will definitely affect your output. It's not about taking 1,000 shots and seeing which one fits. It's about looking and understanding how the medium will perform on whatever camera you're using, and then producing your best work on the input. If you have the opportunity to develop that further on the other side, excellent. It will ensure that you're developing relevant, great work. And if you don't, it will ensure that the one shot that you do have isn't wasted. Guys, I'm Robert Hamm with Robert Hamm Photography. Today we've been talking about Rob's poignant question and statement about how important it is to get it right in the camera. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. You can follow my adventures over here on Instagram with the TL70 and see all this cool stuff in the background at Rob Hamm Photo. And you're welcome to leave a high five down in the comments. A like and a subscribe would be appreciated. I want to thank you for watching and remind you that I will catch you on the flip side.